Welcome to Environmental Everything. Talk about the environment. One of the environments we're going to be talking about today is associated with your home, your living space, and in particular, if you have a basement. All right? People talk about waterproofing basements because basements invariably will have water entry. And you're like, well, how could that be? Well, I will tell you this, that I work with geologists and I've worked with hydrogeologists. Very rarely when people develop areas do they monitor the fluctuations in the groundwater table to know that, you know what, I want to have a 5-foot buffer between my basement and where the water table is. So in a 20-year span, I know the table's not going to fluctuate above that, so I'll never get water in the basement. It just doesn't really work like that. Okay. Additionally, basements are made of masonry material, which everything wears out. And if you have water sitting outside during a rainstorm, water can get in. And the older the home, that can happen. The house can settle, So people talk about waterproofing. And I view it more as like water management. There are codes. And again, this is it's a podcast, so I can't talk for every state in the country. But in New Jersey, new homes get sump pumps. Okay, because they know that the water table could come up and basement could get wet. So they put that in there. I have a sump in my basement. It never turns on because the water table is significantly deeper where I am than people who have water in their basements. So, you're living in a home for a while and it's getting wet and you're kind of annoyed because the house is 50 years old. You don't know if it always got wet, what the history of it is. It's not like someone wrote on a sheet of paper that we got rain during this storm or we got water here and there. You just really don't know. So they talk to these waterproofing companies and they will come in and they'll put a sump in if you don't have one, or a second sump, or they'll put a trench in which kind of intercepts the water as it's coming up. I've even seen on new home construction, they'll do that. And on the outside of the home, they'll put a waterproofing agent, like a membrane on it. But I will tell you, all these homes, I do mold work, mold inspections, mold remediation, and houses that have all these features, I've still done mold remediation because the space has still gotten water in it. Okay, because it's not waterproof, it's not foolproof, it's water management. And the way water is, water will find a way. Now, Tiffany has a great story because she's had issues with water management in her basement, which she's going to share with us.
I am.
Okay.
So, I'm thinking probably about 18 years ago, there was a huge flood where I live, and a bunch of dams broke and all these lakes flooded out. And
just so you know, Tiffany lives with a bunch of beavers because there's dams. So they build all these beavers are very, aggressive.
And during that time, everybody's basements flooded, but ours did not. So at that time, we decided to finish our basement. It was great. It was finished for a couple years, and then a couple years later, we had all this snow on the ground. It stayed for a couple months, and then the snow melted, and our basement flooded. So we lost everything in the basement, and we had to finish the basement again. And at that point, we got a sump pump, and we got the trench drain put in. Our sump pump has 3 sump pumps put into one, so it's a 3-level sump pump. If that first sump pump goes, the second sump pump turns on, and then if that second sump pump goes, the third sump pump goes on. Third sump pump is not as strong as the first sump pump, and that third sump pump is battery operated. So recently we got a ton of rain here, and our sump pump was actually pumping at 1 minute and 25 seconds. It's still going now. It's at like 5 minutes and 30 seconds. It's still running consistently, and we have not gotten any water in our basement since we had the trench drain and the sump pump put in.
So the water management or waterproofing system
has worked, yes.
But here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
A fact that you kind of skipped over is that you're basically saying you had a lot of snow, it sat forever, and then it rained. So why'd you get water in the basement?
Because the water just went down into the ground and straight into our basement.
What you're saying is the ground was saturated.
Yeah.
The ground couldn't handle any more water, so it needed a point of relief.
Right, and it actually came in through the walls and then up through the flooring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sure.
yeah.
Water will find. If you ever go to the beach and there's a wave that pushes you over, water is very, very powerful. So you're waterproofing. So let me ask this. I don't wish ill will on you because it sounds like these sub pumps are going to have a heart attack the way they're working. They're Olympic sub pumps. What happens if you lose power?
We have a generator.
Okay, so you have that right. So you spent,
We have backup.
you have backup.
Yes.
And you've spent significantly.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
How old's the house?
80 years old.
80 years. And you've lived there for how many years?
20.
20. So for 60 years, no one ever did anything with the basement, right? It was not finished.
It was not finished, but they definitely hung out down. There was a bar down there.
Of course, everyone had a bar.
Yeah, it was a bar.
Yeah.
Like a nice log bar.
A lot. Oh, yes.
But it was not.
Made by beavers.
Yeah, and the laundry room was down there.
Right. So you obviously would go down there. But,
Yeah.
Right.
But it was not finished.
You're not watching they weren't watching the Super Bowl.
No, the furnace was down there, a laundry room was down there, and there was a bar.
So for 60 years, and you obviously didn't live there, it probably got some water. So you lived there, during that 20-year period. Early on, like, hey, we didn't get anything. Let's go finish the space.
Right, exactly.
And you got lulled into that. And then you had a Mother Nature event where, and really that's where it comes from, that you can't manage it. That
right.
Yeah.
We tried. We got the shop back out, and we at that point when the water was coming in so much, my husband and I stayed up, and we just shop vac around the furnace to make sure the furnace didn't go wet.
Sounds awesome.
It was horrible.
So extrapolate on that. You can spend a bunch of money to manage water. Okay. Tiffany has gone to the extreme because they got burned, and it hurts when you spend money to fix something, finish the space, and then it gets destroyed. You're like, this is so aggravating. So they got a generator. A lot of people don't have a generator. I go into a lot of basements that have these systems. Okay. And they have a battery backup. Okay. And the battery, you're hoping it's maybe going to run an hour.
Right. And we have the battery backup.
You have a battery backup. And it's just like, that's the best you can do. And so let me tell you, you can have a solar panel, but when this happens, it's probably going to be a storm and you're not going to have any energy, right? From a solar, you lose power. The battery's going to, look, I was in a basement, 2 sub pumps, battery backup. And I'm like, what happened? And the guy's like, Dave, we lost power for 3 days. Oh, I mean, he had like 3 or 4 feet of water in his basement. He's like, everything was floating. It was like a swimming pool.
Oh, it's horrible.
He said it was like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, is there an alligator down there? Right? So it's really tough because when people say waterproof, like, look, you could buy some super expensive like Rolex watch. That's, waterproof, whatever, to a certain depth.
Right.
Okay. So people have this idea, this is going to be 100%. Mother Nature will find a way. And I will tell you, I do a lot of inspections and a lot of people have like a cinder block basement. Okay. And I'm not going to talk to you about the advantages of poured concrete or cinder block, but cinder blocks are hollow, okay, for the most part, and you can get a hole in one of the cinder blocks. Water gets in and fills it up like a honeycomb and finds a point of weakness and will start dripping out. And people are like, I'm getting water here, and I'm like, well, that's on the north side of the house. It's really probably coming from the south side. That's where the water's hitting your foundation. It's just filled everything up. I've had people drill into the wall and it just shoots water out.
I'm sure.
It's insane. I say this simply because, I've had people who are very upset because they've spent money for the waterproofing and it didn't work. And I said, nothing's going to be 100% regarding this. And there's now actually in New Jersey, there's disclosures regarding like water entry and there's flood mapping to kind of know where it is. And things are absolutely changing where, you get an old farm, right? As I was talking about. That farm is used to absorbing water because there's nothing there to stop it. Now there's a road and driveways and houses, and the water has to go somewhere. So if you want to, if you want some cheap, non-Tiffany ways to keep your basement dry, one is go outside during a rainstorm, and if you see water ponding or pooling, adjust the grade. Make sure that all the discharges to your gutters go 5 to 10 feet away from the house. Sometimes you'll go by a house, commercial or residential, and you'll see that they have the piping going so far away from the house, right? The reason they're doing that is not because it looks good, because it looks terrible, right? It's because if the water is getting dumped close to the foundation of the house and enough sits there, it's going to find its way in. And Tiffany's scenario is case in point. When all the snow and the rain, everything melted, the water had nowhere to go but, in that basement space, which, not that these extensions are going to help you in that scenario, but in the rainstorm, it's definitely going to take water away from you, which it's not optimal at every property to be able to do that. Some properties aren't going to do that because that's not what people look for when they buy a home regarding how am I going to manage all this water. That's the last thing they're looking at.
Yeah.
But those are things that people, you should consider. If you have a sub pump, and I don't sell sub pumps, I've had enough people tell me that you should always keep an extra sub pump because when it dies, they're not going to have them at Home Depot or Lowe's are going to be sold out. But I've had people tell me you should replace them every 4 to 5 years, which I know is an expense and you're replacing something before it's broken. Okay. And I'm not saying to get rid of the old one. Okay. But what I'm saying is if you've been using, like the one you're using, this super powered one, it's going to break. Okay. Now it's going to break and maybe the next one's going to run. But most people don't have that. They have one sub pump.
Right.
And it looks disgusting. It's wet. You don't even want to touch it. Right. But I'm like, you may just want to replace that. A lot of sub pumps, $150, $175, depending on what it is. You replace it so you have something and it's under warranty.
Well, my mom during this past, because this just happened, like we're still in it right now because of the amount of rain that we're having. Her sump pump is in her crawl space. She's older. She wasn't going down. She noticed her heat wasn't working. She had to call an emergency plumber to come out. They found out that her sump pump was not put in correctly and that her heater is in her crawl space and that water was getting into her heater.
So how was the sump pump put in improperly?
The sump pump was not grabbing the water. So I don't know if it was the floater. It had something to do. So the guy had the other plumber who didn't put the sump pump in, a different company, had to drill some holes in so that the water would get into the sump so that it could pump the water out.
So it sounds like the sump wasn't
grabbing them.
Wasn't allowing water to enter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a fail. That's a fail. Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be an insurance claim against the original plumber.
I think so. Yeah. And so she is getting a new sump pump.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm happy for her.
Yeah.
The whole point of this is to understand that you could spend all this money. And let me tell you, I've had houses that have membranes on them. They get water in because there's a opening in the membrane somewhere. All you need is a little hole, and that water will find its way in. The more you can do to get the water away from your house, bigger gutters, right? Mm-hmm. They're not sexy, but they capture a lot more water because in a storm they will overflow. You really want a dry area, a dry perimeter around your home. If you do that, I guarantee you're going to increase your probability of keeping a dry space by an order of magnitude. Because what's going to affect you there is the water table coming up, okay? Which is fine because the water tables, maybe it's at 16 foot, now it's rising to 13 or 12 foot. That's fine. It's when you have the water saturating the soils around your house, like Tiffany right there, that's an issue. I had water in my basement once, and it was coming in. It was just what you were saying. I went outside and I put a tarp on the ground, and I put a picnic table there, and I put a tarp there. I'm getting soaked, and I basically diverted the water that was raining away from my house, and it stopped coming in because the ground was saturated. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you learned something from that, people. Have a great day.